All righty. Good afternoon, Ryan. Thank you for joining me.
Afternoon.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays.
Happy
And
holidays.
I know that we are both crunched and busy and focusing on Christmas and family and still have a really important topic to discuss
Yes.
today. So I just wanted to thank you so much for hopping on here with me and thank you. Just real quick, how are things going in your neck of the woods with college consulting?
Good. Excellent. Everything's going great. Knock on wood. Hope you're doing well.
Yes, thank you. And today, what we wanted to talk about, parents, and if you're going to forward this to your kids, is the current state of the union regarding recent college admissions decisions that have come out, and we're talking about rejections, acceptances, and the middle of the road. You've been deferred to the regular admissions
Right.
pile. So these are students who, and I know these are a lot of your students and a lot of my students. So these are students who were organized, motivated, applied to, hit that early action, deadline, and
Mhm.
they did it. And now they've gotten the big old, you're going to have to wait. And so at the end of this live, I'll explain what I'm offering to help students, but I thought it would be really valuable, Ryan, to hear your perspective coming from a college consultant. First of all, what does this mean in the world of, I'm picturing a student opening up, now it's email, right? Like,
Mhm.
thank you for applying. We've had so many applicants. Your application has now been pushed to regular decision. So, what does this mean? And how are students supposed to wrap their brains around this from your point of view?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great discussion, and thank you for having me today. I do think it's very pertinent, and I think this is something we could continue to speak about
Yeah.
because I know there's probably some families on here that couldn't make it to this week because of the holidays, but maybe we could go back to this in a few weeks. But either way, it's very pertinent, and I'll give you an example. On Thursday or Friday of last week, I had a family out of the blue from the Northeast. I won't mention exactly where they're from, but they called me and said, Ryan, my son just got deferred at Cornell.
Mm.
I want to hire you
Mhm.
to review our application,
Mhm.
to look over our essays and see what we did wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And she was just, I was like, well, tell me a little bit more. How many colleges has he applied to, his son? She's like, oh, he's applied to 10 already. And, I think we need to apply to a whole bunch more now because he's got
Mm.
deferred at his first college. I'm like,
Mm.
whoa, slow down. It's like, let's talk about this and let's
Yeah.
think about this and, let's get off the ledge for a
Yeah.
second. Right. And the first thing I told her is that just because Cornell deferred him
Mhm.
doesn't mean, number one, he's not going to get in. And number two, doesn't mean all the other colleges won't accept him because what Cornell's looking for isn't necessarily what another college or university is looking for in a student. So I wanted to explain that to the mom, and she's like, well, Cornell was one of his favorites. And I'm like, I understand. I
Mhm.
certainly understand. And we've talked about this before, but I spoke with an admissions officer at an Ivy League last year, and they mentioned that this year, because they had so many females apply last year,
Mm.
and so many females get accepted last year, getting into their college as a female was going to be harder this year, right? And it has nothing to do with grades
Isn't
or
that
letters of
interesting?
recommendations
Yeah.
or essays. And, I tell my students that, and my parents that, but sometimes it doesn't hit home until situations like this. You could have had the
Right.
perfect application and
Yes.
still get rejected or waitlisted or,
Yes.
yeah, or anything, right? I mean,
Right.
it's so frustrating. And I wish
Mhm.
all these colleges could take all these wonderful young men and women because most of them are fantastic and have all the grades and
Mhm.
extracurricular activities and everything that they need to do and be successful at these
Mhm.
colleges, but
Mhm.
just don't have the room, or it just isn't
Right.
their mission, or they just don't have room for them this year for that
Mhm.
particular type of
Mhm.
student,
Mhm.
right? So it's
So it is tough. Now, Cornell is an Ivy League, right? School, and the acceptance rate is it's extremely competitive to get
right,
into. I mean, even if you look at any colleges, less than a 50% chance of admissions, depending on the year, can be incredibly difficult to get into.
sure.
So, what about colleges that have not been known? to be extremely competitive to get into. But I don't know about you, this year,
Mm.
a lot of students who thought they would easily get accepted to
Right.
big state schools,
Yep.
let's just say, aside from a couple that are very competitive, like Georgia, big SEC state schools, and these kids have been deferred to regular admissions. And they're right now
Mm.
literally shell shocked. I mean, parents are saying if this is their second or third born, it wasn't like this even 3 years ago when, his older sister applied or older brother. So, what is your advice for those kids and families now as far as staying calm and taking action? I mean, is there anything that specifically you're recommending? And of course,
Mm.
I'm encouraging any parents who are watching this and really do want to take a deep dive and get excellent advice from Ryan to reach out to him. You can reach Ryan here on Facebook, and I'll drop his specific link later on. But
Mm.
just in a nutshell, a parent that can just glean a
Sure.
specific golden nugget today from watching this.
Yeah, I'll try to get out a one or two or three. And there's many things you can do, but number one, we want to be realistic about our chances. On average, I've read that your chances are anywhere between 5 to 10% if you've been deferred, right?
5 to 10% if you've been deferred. Okay, of eventually getting accepted, and of course, depending on the college.
Correct.
Right, okay,
Correct.
okay.
And so, what does that mean? Well, it means you shouldn't give up, right? That's that's nugget number two. Don't give up, right? Because I've had students get off of the deferral list many
Yes.
times.
Right.
So, and I've had students that just were so depressed and so mad, they were just like, I'm done, right? Forget it. I'm not doing anything else. Forget it. I'm done. And, again, that's what the colleges are hoping that you do, because that will automatically take you off their list of students that they are potentially going to accept.
Just
right?
trim down those numbers, make it easier in the first place, have the kids just say, I'm finished with
I'm done.
this. I mean, it makes it easier for the colleges. What I'm hearing from you is, if you want this college, if you believe you're a fit, even with the slim chances, there are some specific action steps you can take.
Yes. And the third nugget is reread the letter or email that you received and see if there's any specific action items that they point out that you should do. And that is different from college to university or
Yes.
university to college.
Yes.
Right. So one college might say, don't do a thing.
Yep.
Right. We don't want to hear from you.
Right.
Don't send us any letters of recommendation. Don't write any additional essays. We'll take it. We got your application. We're good. Other colleges will say, hey, this is what I want you to do. Send us your midterm or mid-year scores. Or if you took the SAT and ACT again, submit that. Or if you took any more leadership, you know what I mean? So read the letters, what I'm telling you, and follow it to the T, because that's exactly what the colleges are expecting. And if they don't give you any indication on the letter, then reach out to the college or university and show them you are still interested. Right? Do some of those things.
Yes. Very good. Very good.
An additional letter of recommendation. If your grades are better, submit your new grades. If you have a better test score this time, you want to submit those, submit your test scores. There's a few different, show them that you are still interested.
Yes, it truly seems like that makes sense, Ryan. And I mean, in the back of my mind, I don't know about you, have students who apply to schools that are such reaches, they don't even have in the range of the test scores. And maybe they come to me more because they're thinking, okay, it's going to be the essays, Mrs. Haskell, and they don't have the activity list, a robust activity list, or the grades. And maybe perhaps this is all part of the natural selection process, in that they're like, you know what? Okay, I thought I'd give it a Hail Mary. I'm just not a fit. And they do. But what I'm hearing from you is that's not always the case, especially if there is extreme disappointment and there is a student who feels there's a real connection there. Go for it. I mean,
yeah, why not? I mean, you don't want to have any regrets, right? Right. So, 6 months from now, you go, you know what? I didn't get in, but I gave it my all.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Okay.
And I have to remind my students, where you go to college isn't necessarily where you finish college, right? So you can always transfer in, and typically it's easier to transfer in than it is to come in as a freshman, depending upon the college or university. But in
Right.
general, that's a general rule,
Yeah.
right? So if you do want to go to University of South Carolina, for example, you're just talking about how all these colleges now are, it's so hard to get into these schools. And 5 years ago it was a shoe-in. And that's really the case at most of these large state schools, just not SEC schools, but ACC schools as well.
Yes.
And that has to do with the cost of college, I believe.
Yeah.
All right. Everyone's like, I can't afford college. I want to go to the local state school. And most students know about the large state schools, especially the ones with the basketball and football programs that everyone's familiar with.
Yes.
And so those are the ones that everyone applies to. And so you got everyone from that state applying to those colleges and universities, especially early action deadline dates. You're getting kind of the best of the best.
Yes.
And so it's hard to get in.
Right. It is hard to get in. And this also, I mean, I know we're still in this current admissions season. I actually have a record number of students. It's really interesting, Ryan. And I know I think the last live we talked about, I was trying to, understand better, what students do benefit from applying early action. Because what I was going to say is I have a record number of students this year who purposely decided not to apply early action, whether it was their private college counselor or what they read or their school college counselor saying, given who you are and your stats and activities and your application, I think you would be better off to not apply early action as far as increasing your chances of getting in. So along those lines, so I still have many students for January due dates for very competitive colleges still polishing up their essays, which I think is really interesting. But considering we still have a foot in that world, right? This 2023 season, 2024 extending into January, but really to plant the seed again, and we need to do this in February a lot. Just really thinking about how to present yourself for juniors in a way that showcases the best of you, where you want to go, even if you don't know what you want to major in, and how to stand out in a positive way. Because when I know you always talk about don't have any regrets, and you just wonder how many students out there, whether it was their activities list or their essays or even grades, how many of them now that they are getting rejections or they're being deferred to the wait list could have said, like me running that half marathon, oh, if I would have just kicked it in a little bit harder at the end, who knows? I would have had more positive results. So I think you as a college consultant and myself right now as a writing specialist are stuck in between. We still have seniors applying.
Right.
Do you find you have more seniors who have waited, who have not applied for early action this year? Do you see any difference, or how is that looking for you?
For me, I don't see necessarily a bigger trend. I think it's about average from what I've used or seen in the past. It's kind of interesting to see. Again, I don't know if if you wait, I don't think it's going to help you with getting in, just because those students that were deferred, you're competing against those students. You know what I mean, with your application. So it's not like it's a whole brand new pool of kids.
Right.
Those deferrals are going into that application pool. And if they have the higher grades and the better essays, you know what I mean? It's all kind of even now. So, so, we kind of talked about last week or last time, who is it better for to wait? And I think it is better for some students to wait if their application is not ready and it hasn't been thoroughly checked and you haven't got, you've been rushing to kind of get things done. If you can take your time, or if you can increase your grades between now and there's so many different reasons why, but there are definitely some reasons why you should wait.
Yes, and I'm going to start to show you. You're going to love this. My new organization tool, Ryan. It's called the Remarkable. So instead of me having 17 different spiral notebooks and sticky tabs, that's the idea. A colleague of mine recommended this, and one thing I'm going to use this for is so many times when you and I are like literally having a workshop or a Facebook Live, I have great ideas pop into my head, and And I just had one. And what was I think I've just lost it. It's something under the umbrella of to do for, in the spring.
Okay.
Boosting your application, early action, early decision, grades. It will come to me. But I think this is really helpful, and I think that a lot of students are shocked right now with some schools they thought, I'm not going to say specific names,
Right.
they thought that I always say, like, your safety school, your moderate school, and then you're stretched with a lot of schools that were safety schools or at least moderate. So they've been, deferred to the regular. And it's simply numbers as far as schools with really good football teams last year and the year before, and just a flood of applicants. I mean, like, how can you believe? So what I'm doing, Ryan, and I thought this would be neat to share with our audience today as we think of wrapping this up. So I'm hosting I've just opened it up to my students, and then I think I'll extend the invitation for this Wednesday. It's a free workshop at 5:30 Eastern Time, about 90 minutes, and I'm going to talk about the benefits of if students do decide to write a continued letter of interest, right? And they've done research, and this is what we'll cover in the workshop as far as, is this appropriate for them and the colleges that they still are hoping to get into. If they do decide to write a continued letter of interest, the content that should be in there and the style of writing. And it's simple but really important. And I think, just like you and I talk about with college applications, I think that letter needs to have a strategy also. It's not just like, hey, let's whip off this. Oh no, if you're taking the time to grab the college's attention again and express and communicate X, Y, and Z about yourself, I think it has to be well thought out and well written. So I would like to invite anyone watching this, if you would like to join me, and students and parents. And Ryan, if you would like to join me, if any of your students would like to join me, I'll send you more information. And just to touch upon some of these highlights for writing this letter, and what to not do, what to do, when to send it, when to not send it, to give kids so they feel a little bit more informed and more in control. That's the whole idea here, because we care. And if this is in your wheelhouse, if you're considering this, I think it would be very valuable. So that is what I want to do, and what I'm going to do. So if you're interested, parents, you can message me here. You can post a comment, and all I'll do is email you or message you back the link to the Zoom. So
great. That's awesome.
yeah, so much fun. And again, I'm really excited for what 2024 holds for you and I as far as information sharing and helping make this whole process easier and better for teens and their parents. And on that note, Ryan, as we wrap it up, any other golden nuggets or bits of advice, or please tell us where we can, where parents can find you.
Sure. Yeah. My golden nugget or final advice is that, we've been there as parents. It's hard for children to get those denial letters and deferral letters, especially if it's one of their favorite colleges and universities. And it, as a parent, it just sucks your soul out. You know what I mean? It's just, you're just like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad for them, because the work and effort and time commitment they've put into these applications, and they just didn't get the results that they wanted at this time. But I think, if you give it some time, if you give it, a few years down the road and look back on this moment, you'll realize it was meant to be, right? You'll realize that they went off to the college that they should have gone to, or ended up at that school, but it wasn't right out of the, the first college. Maybe it was the second college they attended, or they went there for graduate school, and they're much more mature now, and they have a better work ethic now. So I think, again, just kind of look and try to take the long-term perspective about this if you can, if you're a parent. But as my heart goes out to you, because we've all been there. So, I do think of for you and pray for you guys. And, I just feel compassion is
Yes.
basically what I'm trying to say.
Yes, I know you do. And if you're listening to this and you want to kick it in and you feel like students or parents writing a letter of continued interest and you want to find out if it is in your best interest to do that, I do think that that could increase your chances of getting accepted. And even if you did make that decision and you didn't get accepted, at least you'll know you gave it your all, right? Unlike me in the half marathon, and I feel like I could have kicked it in and then I would have been under 2 hours. Thank you very much. Well, Merry Christmas and
Merry
happy
Christmas.
holidays, Ryan.
You
Thank you
too.
so
You too.
much. And thank you, everyone. And please feel free to post a comment, ask a question, and message either Ryan or myself, and we'll be sure to get back to you. Until next time, be safe. Take care.
Merry Christmas. Bye bye.